guys? Here's Richie with Statifying Football. This is your college football week 13 noon games. Huge game with national implications, Big Ten implications, everything. Penn State going to Ohio State. Penn State is number 9. Ohio State's number 2, at least as of today. This is being recorded before the college football rankings. Penn State coming off a nice victory over Indiana. Indiana's doing really well this year, so Penn State being 34-27. Sean Clifford, not great passing, 11 of 23, 179 and a touchdown. He added 55 rushing yards and 2 on the ground. Journey Brown ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. Defense forced 2 turnovers. Ohio State had a pretty easy win against Rutgers, 56-21. Justin Fields, Heisman candidate, 15 of 19, 305, passing, 4 touchdown passes plus 30 rushing yards. Chris Olave, 4 catches, 139. They put up 594 yards. They did turn it over twice, and Penn State is a good enough team that if Ohio State turns it over a few times, Penn State could, maybe be able to keep it close. Their defense did force 3 turnovers. I think this will be a close game. Ohio State's favored by 18. I can see that. I think it might be close, maybe through part of the third quarter. But I think Ohio State may just, score a few late, make it look make it look more like a dominant game than it really was. But I'm going to go Ohio State here to win. All right, Alabama, they're lucky to get Western Carolina right now with Tua. Tua is out for the season. Bama beat Mississippi State 38-7. Tua in the part he played, 14 of 18, 256, 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, 7 catches for 114. They shouldn't have any problems against Western Carolina with Tua out, but they got Auburn in a couple of weeks, and that'll be a big one. But Alabama should be able to get through this game. All right, Minnesota and Northwestern. Minnesota coming off of their first loss of the season. They lost to Iowa. I mentioned it last week. Iowa, every year, whether they're good or great, Iowa always has at least one game where they win. They beat somebody they probably shouldn't, a decent upset, and this was that game. Minnesota lost 23-19. Tanner Morgan, 368 passing and a touchdown. Tyler Johnson, 9 catches, 170 and a touchdown. But they're held to 63 rushing yards, and that with, one of the best running games in maybe the nation, at least their trio of running backs with Rodney Smith and Brooks and Muhammad Ibrahim. They got 1,000-yard backs all across the board. They couldn't get it going. Northwestern, finally they've had a down year, but they beat UMass 45-6. Quarterback Aiden Smith was terrible passing, 76 yards passing and 2 interceptions, but they got their entire running game going. Evan Hull, he stepped in. He was like the 3rd or 4th string back, but the head guy's hurt. He ran for 220 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. They ran for 334 yards as a team. They did turn over 3 times, so they can't do that if they want any chance of beating Minnesota. They also had a blocked field goal touchdown. I think Minnesota bounces back this week. I think Minnesota is really good. Iowa was good to beat them. And Northwestern, they just haven't showed it much all year. They were playing UMass in that game last week, so I think Minnesota should win. All right, you got 1AA Samford taking on Auburn. Auburn's coming off a tough loss to Georgia, 21-14. Bo Nix, 245 passing and a touchdown, 42 rushing yards and a touchdown rushing also. Seth Williams, 13 receptions for 121 yards. Auburn did actually outgain Georgia and held Georgia only 251 yards. Auburn shouldn't have any problem with Samford. They're getting ready for a huge game against Alabama in 2 weeks. All right, big game in the Big Ten, Illinois and Iowa. Illinois is coming off a bye. They had a nice big victory over Michigan State to get them bowl eligible. They beat them 37-34. In that game, Illinois was down 31-10 in the 4th quarter, and they scored 27 points in that 4th quarter to win. Brandon Peters passed for 369, 3 touchdowns. Josh Amadabebe had 4 receptions for 178 yards and 2 touchdowns. They only ran for 36 yards, and they did turn it over twice, which they can't do against Iowa. Defense did force 4 turnovers, and they had a pick 6 in that game. Iowa, just mentioned, had a big victory against Minnesota, beat them 23-19. Nate Stanley, 173 passing and 2 touchdowns. Their defense had 6 sacks in that game. I think this will be a pretty good game. Iowa are both kind of about even. Illinois can kind of play. It's weird. Like offensively, they're both kind of inconsistent. Defensively, Illinois is playing okay, but I think Iowa's defense is better. I think they're one of the best defenses in the country. It's got Iowa by 15.5. I think it might be closer than that, but I do think Iowa should win. Maybe 7-10, something like that. All right, Oklahoma State against West Virginia. Oklahoma State's coming off a victory over Kansas, 31-13. Spencer Sanders, 168 passing and a touchdown, plus 37. Chuba Hubbard leading the nation again. He should be Heisman candidate. Ran for 122 and 2 touchdowns. Dylan Stoner, 5 catches, 150 and 2 touchdowns. Defense forced 3 turnovers in that game. Whereas West Virginia had a big upset win against a ranked Kansas State team. They beat them 24-20. Jarrett Dagey started this game, the Bowling Green transfer, who I think should have been starting all season. He passed for 234 and 3 touchdowns. They did have 8 penalties, so they got to clean that up. And they forced 2 turnovers on defense. It should be a shootout, another Big 12 kind of shootout. But I'm going to go Oklahoma State here with Chuba Hubbard. I think we'll go off again for 150 to 200 yards. So I got Oklahoma State there, but it's Oklahoma State by 7 the line, and that seems about right. I think this should be probably be a shootout, 37-30, something like that. All right, BYU taking on UMass. BYU beat Idaho State, a gimme game, 42-10. Zach Wilson came back from injury, 187 passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Sione Finau had 102 rushing and a touchdown. They put up 449 yards. Defense had 2 turnovers, only allowed 271, and had a pick 6 in that game. Whereas UMass got killed by Northwestern 45-6. Randall West, 175 passing and a touchdown. They did force 3 turnovers, so if they can do it against BYU, maybe they can keep it close. But I have a hard time seeing. It says BYU by 41.5. UMass sucks, but BYU is not that good. BYU will win, but not by 41.5. Maybe by 30 or 20. All right, UCF and Tulane, really big. If UCF wants a miracle to maybe win their side of the division, they got to hope Cincinnati loses their last 2 games to Temple and Memphis, which is possible. UCF will also have to win out against Tulane and USF, which the way UCF has played this year, they haven't really beat anybody that was good, and the good teams, they turned it over too much. UCF's coming off a bye. They lost to Tulsa 37-34. Dylan Gabriel, 290 passing, a touchdown, but he threw 2 interceptions. They put up 457 yards, but had 3 turnovers in that game and 15 penalties. That both those 2 things hurt them big time in that game. Tulane's coming off a 29-20 win loss to Temple. McMillan was off 11-27, 103 and a pick. He did run for 64 yards. They ran for 203 yards, and they turned it over 3 times. It's in Tulane. The UCF should win, but both teams, I think, are about even. It's just that UCF keeps turning it over. As long as Gabriel doesn't throw interceptions, they'll win. And it's been that way this year. Their 3 losses were mostly him throwing interceptions, which is weird because on the year he's thrown, 7? And they were all in, those 3 games, basically. So I think UCF should win, but this is going to be a close one. This might be a shootout, but I'll go UCF there. All right, then you got a pretty big MAC game in terms of, at least for bowl eligibility, Ball State and Kent State, both are 4-6. So both teams have to win their last 2 games to get bowl eligible. So whoever loses this one will be eliminated. Ball, they had it against Central Michigan. They lost 45-44. They were up 41-24 late in the 3rd quarter in that game. Drew Plitt passed for 268, 3 touchdowns. They had 2 guys go over 100 yards rushing. Walter Fletcher, 115. Caleb Huntley, 106 and a touchdown. They put up almost 500 yards of offense. Their defense forced 3 turnovers in that loss. Whereas Kent State, they actually, on the flip side, they were down to Buffalo 27-6 halfway through the 4th quarter, and Kent State came back to win 30-27 with Dustin Crum passing for 165, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. I think Ball State has shown a little more. They both are about the same, both decent offenses, but I think Ball State's shown a little more consistency throughout the year. So I'm going to go Ball State. Losing to Central Michigan. Central Michigan is a good team this year, so I'm gonna go Ball State in here. But this will be pretty high scoring. This will be a shootout, I think. All right, East Carolina and UConn both coming off byes. East Carolina lost 59-51 to SMU, but Ehlers is friggin' amazing. 498 yards, 6 touchdown passes. Their receiver Tyler Snead had 19 catches in that one game. 19, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns. They put up 644 yards in that. Lost to SMU. UConn, their last game was a blowout loss to Cincinnati 48-3. Kevin Mensah ran for 115. He's about all they've had this year. They only had 218 yards of offense, 9 penalties. This ECU has shown. Watch out for ECU next year with Holton Nailers at quarterback. That offense is off the charts. They should blow out UConn in this one. All right, kind of an offbeat, interesting game here. Two Virginia teams, Liberty and Virginia. Both teams coming off byes. Liberty just moved up to 1A last year. They were in a transition year. They actually finished 6-6. They are 6-4 now. They actually need to win one of their last 2 games to become bowl eligible because they have 2 wins against 1AA teams and they can only count 1. The Liberty, though, has one of the best. The past 3 years have had one of the best passing offenses in the nation with Steven Calber and Antonio Gandy Golden at quarterback. Their last game, they lost to BYU but kept it close. They lost 31-24. Calvert, 303 passing, 3 touchdowns. Antonio Gandy Golden had 10 catches for 162 yards and a touchdown, and they forced 2 turnovers. Whereas Virginians coming off a bye, they had a close win against Georgia Tech, 33-28. Bryce Perkins, 250 passing and a touchdown, plus 106 rushing and a touchdown. Terrell Jana, 9 catches for 108. This could be pretty high scoring. Both offenses are good. I'm going to go Virginia at the end, but I think it's got Virginia by 17. Maybe that might end up being the final, but I think this might be pretty close. I think Virginia, I'm going to put Virginia on upset alert. I have a hard time seeing Liberty winning outright, but I think they will give them a lot. They will give them a lot to handle, but I think Virginia ends up winning in the end. All right, Kansas and Iowa State. Kansas lost to Oklahoma State 31-13. Carter Stanley, 226, 2 touchdowns and a pick. They only ran for 39 yards, which is a lot because they're running back Puka Williams. He's been running on everybody, even against Oklahoma, and he's a 1,000-yard rusher from last year. They only had 290 yards, and they turned it over 3 times. Iowa State, I called this one. They quote, upset Texas. Beat them 23-21. Brock Purdy, 354, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Breece Hall ran for 101. Deshaunte Jones, 7 catches, 144 and a touchdown. And Michael Petway, 8 catches for 100 yards. They put up 466 yards. This could be pretty close, but I'm going to go Iowa State getting the victory here. But Kansas has been making everybody sweat. So I think this will be closer. It's Iowa State by 24.5. I don't think it'll be that much. Maybe 20. But I still got Iowa State coming out with the victory. All right, Michigan State and Rutgers. Michigan State is 4-6. They've got to win these last 2 games to try to get to a bowl. They got clobbered by their rival Michigan, 44-10. Lewerke was not good, 166, a touchdown and 2 picks, only 220 yards of offense, 2 turnovers. They did have 4 sacks in that game, so they should be able to get after the Rutgers quarterback. Whereas Rutgers lost to Ohio State 56-21. Jonathan Langan, 12 of 26, 121, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. 231 yards, 3 turnovers. They forced 2 turnovers. Michigan State hasn't been very good, but Rutgers is terrible. I think this will be closer than people would think just because Michigan State's really not that good. But I'm going to go, I think Michigan State should at least still win, maybe by 10 or 13. All right, South Alabama taking on Georgia State. South Alabama held their own against Louisiana Lafayette. They still lost, though, 37-27. Desmond Charter, 116 passing and 64 rushing. They ran for 351 yards. If they can do that against Georgia State, they have a real chance of winning. They had 2 guys go over 100 rushing. Trey Minter, 137 and a touchdown. Carlos Davis, 122 and a touchdown. They put up 467 yards. They actually outgained Louisiana Lafayette, but they couldn't score enough to win. Georgia State lost to Appalachian State 56-27. Georgia State was up early in this game, 21-7, and Appalachian State scored the last 49 points of the game. Ellington, not very good at quarterback, 12 of 27, 88 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. They ran for 186, which isn't bad. They had the 3 turnovers. Their defense had a pick 6 in a game. I think Georgia State's been playing well. They're 6-4. They're already bowl eligible. I think they should be able to win this game. It says Georgia State by 11. That seems about right. So I'll go Georgia State with the win there. Air Force in New Mexico. This is a game they were going to play 2 weeks ago when Najee Flowers from New Mexico committed suicide, and they postponed that. Now they're going to play. Air Force coming off a big win against Colorado State, 38-21. Donald Hammond passed for 126 and 3 touchdowns and ran for 42 yards and a touchdown. Caden Remsburg ran for 101. Our defense had 8 sacks in that game. Jake Kiziak had 3 sacks. They had 2 turnovers and a pick 6. And that pick 6 was a 99-yard pick 6 that They were up 31-21, and Colorado State had it at the 1 yard line. They threw a pick six that pretty much sealed the game. Whereas New Mexico got killed by Boise State 42-9. 280 pass for 175. They only had 292 and 2 turnovers. I think Air Force should win this one pretty easily. Boston College taking on Notre Dame. Boston College, if they want to get to a bowl, they have to win just one of these last 2 games. They're 5-5. They're coming off a bye. Their last game was a 38-31 loss to Florida State. Dennis Grosso, 227 passing, 2 touchdowns, ran for 30 yards and a touchdown. A.J. Dillon went off for 165 yards rushing. They put up 508 yards in that loss. Notre Dame's came off a big win over Navy, 52-20. Ian Book, 284 passing, 5 touchdowns. Chase Claypool, 7 catches, 117, 4 touchdowns. Their defense forced 4 turnovers and had a fumble return for a touchdown. I think this might be closer because Boston College, they've shown they've been able to put up yards. Whoever's a quarterback with A.J. Dillon at running back and David Bailey, if they can get both of them going, that could give Notre Dame headaches. I think this will be a lot closer than people think it'll be. However, I do still think Notre Dame will win in the end. But I think that'll be an interesting one, and it'll be a game to keep an eye on for maybe the first half or so. All right, then you got Texas State and Appalachian State. Texas State got killed by Troy, 63-27. Tyler Vitt passed for 263, 2 touchdowns, but 4 picks. They were able to put up 416 yards, and they can move it a little bit, but they had the 4 turnovers in that game. Appalachian State killed Georgia State 56-27. Zach Thomas, 256 passing, 4 touchdowns, plus 52 rushing and touchdown. Darrington Evans ran for 131 and a touchdown. Corey Xavier Sutton had 8 catches, 173, 3 touchdowns. They put up 553 yards. Defense had 3 turnovers and a pick 6 in that game. I think this should be App State. App State is a top 25 team for a reason. Texas State can pass it, and that's about it. I think App State's got this pretty easy. All right, and a big game in the Sun Belt. Georgia Southern and Arkansas State. Georgia Southern Eagles, Arkansas State Red Wolves, both 6-4, both 4-2 in the Sun Belt. Georgia Southern beat Louisiana Monroe pretty easily, 51-29. Shea Wertz passed for 80 yards and a touchdown, ran for 53 and 2 touchdowns. J.D. King ran for 102 and a touchdown. They ran for 245 as a team. Defense had 3 turnovers, a pick 6, and returned an onside kick for a touchdown. Arkansas State had an awesome game against Coastal Carolina. They won 28-7. 28-27. They were down 27-21 and went down and got a winning touchdown with 32 seconds left in the game. Lane Hatcher, 297, passing, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. They actually turned over 5 times and were able to win. However, their defense was able to force three turnovers in that game and had a pick 6 in that. This is a hard one. The line is Arkansas State by 1.5. It's at home. This is tough. They're both kind of opposite sorts of offenses. Arkansas State, they have a good running back in Murray, but they like to pass it around. Georgia Southern is a triple option team. That running is their thing. That's their bread and butter. In my head, I want to go. I immediately want to go Arkansas State because of offense, but Georgia Southern's been playing really well the last few games, beating some good teams. I'm going to go Georgia Southern here at the end, but this one should be good. A good one. Could be very high scoring and a fun one to watch. So I'll go Georgia Southern there for the win. Come back, see who I'm going to pick for the 3:30 games that Georgia and Texas A&M. I'm telling you, it's not who you think it's going to be. Peace.